What's going on, everybody? All right, week one of the preseason is in the books. I want to jump on here and kind of give you my take as to how I think the game really played out, right? I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, some of the things that caught my eye, definitely some things that were concerning. Obviously, the defense came out extremely slow. But as I go through this, I just want to preface that when it comes to the rookies, I posted a video Thursday morning detailing out some of the things that I'm focused on. And one of the things I definitely want to focus on, the early round rookies, the guys that we picked in the first, second, and third round. And even though I focused on them and there are some things that need to be corrected, at the same time, we have to be patient with some of these rookies. You had Darian Porter, Kai Blue Kelly, some of these guys, VD Grants, that missed some key tackles during the game, took bad angles, and just didn't have the best showing. And that's okay. It's the first time that they've seen NFL action in a live game, so you got to give them a little bit of patience. You just hope to see continued improvement through these next two preseason games, and you just hope that it doesn't be a continued theme ongoing and into the regular season. Now let's talk a little bit about the things that really caught my eye, and we're going to talk about the offensive side first. And the number one thing is that basically the majority of the starters started out the game. We definitely saw what I think is going to be our starting offensive line going into week one, which is Colt Miller at left tackle. Right next to him is Dylan Parham at left guard. Then you got Jordan Meredith at center, JPJ at right guard, and then you got DJ Glaze at right tackle. I do think that's going to be our starting center. It was good to see them start the game and just really start to build that chemistry and that communication on the front line. Next, it was good to see Geno Smith get a little bit of action, but what I did notice is that I think the chemistry within the receivers still needs a little bit of fine-tuning, which is expected. It takes a little bit of time to kind of get that communication and understanding between quarterback and receiver, but it did look a little shaky. Hopefully Geno Smith just gets more reps during the preseason, and they could definitely build that chemistry and be ready to rock week one of the regular season. Now, one thing I did notice is that we came out extremely pass heavy. That first half, we passed the ball damn near 95% of the time, and the majorities of the runs that we saw were in the fourth quarter of the game. And so we came out extremely pass heavy. Chip Kelly definitely wanted to put the ball in the air. Ashton Jeanty did get the start, but he only had 3 carries. And so I'm really curious just how Chip Kelly is going to run his offense in the next 2 preseason games, because we all know Chip Kelly, he definitely likes to prioritize the run. We picked Ashton Jeanty, number 6 overall. And so we'll just see just kind of how the offensive game plan continues to play out throughout the rest of the preseason, really see if this offensive line can dial in the run blocking, because I do think we're going to lean on it quite a bit in this upcoming season. And now I'm going to get into my winners and losers of our first preseason game. But the one thing I definitely want to point out is Deontay Thornton. When I watched him, I definitely noticed that he needs to clean up his route running a little bit. There's a lot of reports coming out of training camp that he's doing a really good job, that he looks good in training camp and practice. And when you watched him in the game, there was a couple things that caught my eye when I'm watching him run his routes. And I could specifically point out the 2 opportunities that he had throughout the game. Number 1 was the back shoulder throw from Geno Smith. I didn't like the fact that he got rerouted off of his route, the line of scrimmage. The corner pressed him closer to the sideline than I'd like. In those type of routes, you want to be able to restack that corner a little bit. You don't want to get pushed off your route so much to where you're not giving yourself a lot of room on the sideline for the quarterback to kind of compensate on that back shoulder throw based on where the cornerback is positioned on you. So I wanted him to stay a little bit more stronger in his route and kind of restack that corner and give a little bit more room on the sideline. So I definitely want to see him just be stronger off the line of scrimmage. And then even on that 3rd and 14 or 15, it was a 3rd and long where he had that comeback route. Aiden O'Connell was able to get him the ball, and we converted on that 3rd down. If you go back and you look at that route, it was actually a very sloppy route. And the one thing you always have to take in consideration is the competition that you're going against. And he's going against a 2nd, 3rd string corner, and a good to decent starting corner in the National Football League would have that route completely locked up. And so I definitely want to see just a more cleaner, a more efficient route in those type of situations. But again, he's a rookie, first time kind of getting live action in an NFL game. So I definitely want to give him a little bit of grace. But again, just one of the things that definitely caught my eye. Now let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball and just some of the things that caught my eye before I get to my winners and losers of the game. And obviously, first and foremost, we started out the game with our starters, and Seattle had their backup. I'm going to get into the winners and losers or dive a little bit deeper into this when I get to that topic. But one of the things that caught my eye was the fact that we just couldn't really get any pass rush throughout the entire game. We were mixing starters and backups the entire first half and Seattle only had their backups in. And again, we just could not get any pressure on the quarterback. Whichever quarterback was in was basically sitting free back there and having all the time in the world. And so that definitely needs to get cleaned up. I understand we're not bringing a lot of pressure. What Patrick Graham was doing was very basic, but at the end of the day, you would hope when you have starters versus backups that you're going to get some pressure. And that was definitely concerning in my book. Now, one thing I definitely have to point out was that was a hell of a pick by Isaiah Palomel. It was good to see him kind of get in there and play that route perfectly and really have an amazing interception. And so definitely shout out to Isaiah Paul for taking advantage of that and capitalizing on that opportunity. Now, one thing I want to point out, something definitely that caught my eye is when Malcolm Kuntz entered into the game. We had a lot of excitement about bringing him back on, which I still am excited. But the one thing I noticed is that he looked very hesitant. And now, mind you, he didn't play all of last season. This is his first live action in an entire season. So it's going to take him some time to kind of get back into things, and I completely understand it. But the thing is we know what Malcolm Kuntz is. We know what he was able to do in the 2023 season. And I just wanted to see just a little bit more. He just looked very hesitant. He didn't look very explosive. And I expected to see just a little bit more. Now, I'm not extremely concerned. Again, it's your first live action in an entire season. So you might just want to come a little bit slow out of the gate. And that's perfectly fine. Kind of ease your way back into action. So again, I'm not concerned, but it's definitely something that I want to mention because I'm definitely going to keep my eye on Malcolm Kuntz these next two preseason games just to kind of see how he gets that motor going and how quickly can he get back to that 2023 form. And then my last topic as it relates to the defensive side of the ball, and I know I talked about Darian Porter and some of the corners that had missed tackles. I think it was just a problem amongst the entire defense. The entire defense struggled to tackle as it relates to individual players, but also as an entire unit. That's definitely something that we need to see improvement on. If you're going to be potentially a top defense in the National Football League, you have to be good at tackling in open space, but at the same time, your defense has to fly the football and tackle as a team and as a unit. So definitely something I'm going to be watching for in the next couple preseason games. So let me know in the comment section down below, what are some of the things that you noticed in the game, some things that caught your eye. But before I get to my winners and losers, if you can, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. My next giveaway is at 5,500 subscribers. So if you want to be included in that, hit that sub button. Again, it's just my way of saying thank you and showing my appreciation to all my viewers and my subscribers. And now we're going to start with the losers and we're going to end with the winners. All right, we're going to end on a good note. And one of the guys that I was paying very close attention to was Tyree Wilson. And unfortunately, in my opinion, Tyree Wilson has just not made any strides. I've said it multiple times during my lives as well as other videos, is that Tyree Wilson is going to potentially be just a rotational player off the edge, right? It remains to be seen, is he going to play off the edge, or is he going to be more of an interior defensive tackle? And he played a lot off of the edge this first preseason game. And what was concerning was that we started the game with our starters, and Malcolm Kuntz actually wasn't even on the field. maxxcrosby was lined up on one side, and they actually used Jonah Laulu on the other side. Now, Seattle came out with 12 personnel. They had 2 tight end sets, and so we definitely had more of a heavier front. But for Malcolm Kuntz not to be on the field and Tyree Wilson also not be on the field is a little concerning. And so as the game went on, you can just tell Tyree Wilson, he has not been able to establish a second and third move, and he did make 2 plays. The first play was a zone run away from his side. He did a good job of getting down the line of scrimmage, but again, without a lot of resistance. He didn't have a guy in his face, and the front side of the defense did a very good job. The running back cut back right into him, and he made the play. I'm not going to knock him for making the play, but then the second play where he stuffed the run, if you go back and look, it was a third-string receiver that motioned down and was assigned to block Tyree Wilson. And so all Tyree Wilson had to do was basically engage, press, and shut off a number 3 receiver, and then he went ahead and made the tackle in the hole. But outside of that, he got absolutely manhandled by second and third string offensive linemen. The amount of times that he actually got driven back 5 to 7 yards, he was getting washed down the line of scrimmage. Anytime there was a pass play, again, all bull rush, no other moves, and still remains to be one-dimensional. And like I said in the beginning, I've said this on multiple lives as well as the videos that I've posted, is that if Tyree Wilson is going to be just a rotational piece, he needs to take advantage of every single opportunity he gets when he steps on the football field. Because as a rotational piece, you might only get 8, 10, at best 12 opportunities in a game to shine. And if that's all you're getting each and every game and throughout the rest of the season, you better take advantage of every snap. And as it stands right now, yesterday, he didn't show much improvement at all. And so without question, I have Tyree Wilson as a loser in this first preseason game. The next one on the defense is, in my opinion, Patrick Graham. When your starting defense gets on the field and you're going against backups and the offense basically moves the ball at will, that's not a good look, especially given the fact that last season you saw games like the home opener against Carolina where we allow offenses just to get started very fast. And Patrick Graham has to figure out a way to stop that from happening and get his defense unit to start the game fast. But then I also touched on the team tackling, and that was definitely a big concern. So Patrick Graham, in my opinion, is a loser this game because he's got to tighten up this defense and he's got to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders by week 1. So I'll definitely be paying attention to that for the next 2 preseason games. And I actually forgot to mention this earlier in the video. And again, I'm not saying that he's a loser, so I don't want to put him out there like that. But the one guy that I was definitely looking forward to watching and just kind of see what he's going to bring this offense and how well he is going to progress is Jack Besh. He was our second round draft pick, so you expect him to have some sort of impact on this offense. And we went very pass heavy in the first half of this game, and he was basically non-existent. Right. I watched him run some routes. He didn't look like he was getting much separation. The quarterback really wasn't looking his way. He did get one catch. I think we threw to him twice. And so I just wanted to see more out of him. But again, I'm not calling him a loser. I just didn't mention it in the beginning of this video. And so, but definitely it's something I'm going to pay closer attention to as the preseason games go on, because I want to see Jack Besh have an impact on this offense, given the fact that we did draft him in the second round. And then my final loser on offense is Theron Mumford. Theron Mumford, I understand that he wasn't going to come in and be a starter, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you right now, he got eaten up by a bunch of backups on that Seattle defense. And if Colton Miller or DJ Glaze goes down, we're going to be in a world of trouble, because if Theron Mumford or Charles Grant, now Charles Grant's, he's a third round rookie. I think he's definitely a project. It showed yesterday just of how much of a project he really is. I've been saying that it could take him 1 to maybe 2 seasons to really see what he could do in the National Football League. Based on what I saw yesterday, it might take 2 seasons, but I'm going to be dead honest. If Colton Miller or DJ Glaze goes down, we are going to be in a world of hurt at the offensive tackle position. So I'm just going to put that out there, but definitely Theron Mumford just got eaten up yesterday. And that's definitely concerning for me, because injuries can happen at any time. So Theron Mumford is definitely a loser in this week 1 preseason game, in my opinion. Now, let me know in the comment section down below, who were your losers in this week 1 preseason game against Seattle? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, let's jump into the winners. And I'm going to start out by talking about some of our backup receivers. You got Philip Dorsett, Alex Bachman, as well as Cedric Jackson. I mean, those guys got a lot of work, because again, we passed the ball quite a bit, and those guys took advantage of every opportunity that we had. A little bit of a scare. Alec Bachman went down in the second quarter just before half, but he did return. But those guys, man, they took advantage of every opportunity. So those 3 guys are definitely winners, and they're definitely battling for position on this football team. The next one is our late third round rookie, Caleb Rogers. I think he played 3 full quarters. I think he actually stepped in late in the first as well and played the rest of the game. He may have sat out the last 1 or 2 series of the game, but he played the majority of the game. And I think that he showed enough flashes to say that he is going to battle with Dylan Parham that's in front of him on that depth chart. So it was definitely good to see some flashes out of him, and we're going to see just kind of how he progresses. So I think Caleb Rogers, without question, was a winner in our game against Seattle. Dylan Labe did a very good job of taking advantage of the opportunities that he had. Obviously, he had a catch out of the backfield for a touchdown. He had a couple really good carries, and so he's definitely battling for a spot on this roster with Sincere McCormick, even possibly Zamir White. I do think Zamir White makes this squad, but he's battling with Sincere McCormick. And so Dylan Labe, I think, is a winner, because he came out and he produced. He's able to make up for the 1 carry and 1 fumble he had last year. So shout out to Dylan Labe. Definitely good showing, and definitely a winner, in my opinion, against Seattle. And then you got to talk about 2 players on the defensive side. One, Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams was flying all over the place. He brought to this defense what he can bring. All right, but here's the thing, is everybody's got to hold their breath, because you just never know if an injury is going to happen with Jamal Adams. But it was definitely good to see Patrick Graham use him in the way that he did. I posted a video the day that we signed him saying that there's a good chance that Patrick Graham's going to use him more as a linebacker, and we're seeing it. And Jamal Adams, he's flying around, and he could potentially be that tone setter on the defense as time goes on. And then we got to talk about our 4th round rookie, Tonka Hemingway. Definitely very good showing. You love seeing the flashes out of that guy, especially given the fact that we need some help on the interior defensive line. Now, he moved around. He played edge rusher, but he also played a 3 technique more on the inside. So it remains to be seen really where he is going to play. But it's definitely good to see flashes out of a rookie, and that definitely something I'm excited to see. So shout out to Tonka Hemingway. I definitely think he's a winner in my book in our week 1 matchup against Seattle. And then you definitely got to talk about Cam Miller. Cam Miller, he came out. Now, look, I got to see more out of him. That touchdown throw to Cedric Jackson, it was a great throw, but look, Cedric Jackson did a really good job of that stop and go. He took off, and that's more or less just playing catch with Cam Miller. But for Cam Miller to show at the tail end of the game that he was calm, he was composed, he was able to kind of drive us down, get us in position, you got to give him all the credit. So it's great to see a rookie, especially coming from a small school, just perform like that. Now, we're all against backups. We definitely need to see a lot more out of him, but you got to give credit where credit's due. And it's good to see him perform the way he did in his first live action in the NFL. And then you got to give credit to Pete Carroll. You know, everything looked very slow in the beginning of the game, but we fought back. And it's been a long time since we've seen our Raider players, our Raider team just kind of fight back in a game like that. And you had all the veterans on the sideline late in the game, kind of hyping up the players that were still in the game. And you love to see when veterans get hyped up like that. When, look, they don't have to. They can sit on the sideline. They can enjoy just the game in itself. But you can see that Pete Carroll is slowly starting to change this culture, and you love to see it. And anytime you're that close in the game, you're definitely going to have that. But it's been a long time since us Raiders have seen our team battle and fight back the way that they did. And so shout out to Pete Carroll, just kind of getting us back in that game and getting this team in a position to potentially win, but ultimately we ended in a tie. Nobody likes a tie. You want to win, but just to see the fight, I definitely like seeing it. So shout out to Pete Carroll just for getting us in that type of position. So I definitely think Pete Carroll is a winner coming out of this first preseason game as well. And so that's kind of my breakdown, right? Some of the main things that caught my eye, but also my winners and the losers. And so let me know in the comment section down below, who are your winners of our first preseason game of the 2025 season? Let me know in the comment section down below. So that kind of wraps it up for me. Make sure you hit that notification because I am going to go live on Sunday with my guys in the Raider War Room. We're going to break this thing down, but we're also going to break down the game film of this first preseason game against Seattle of the 2025 season. So hit that notification and join us on Sunday where we break down the game film, the good, the bad, and the things that definitely caught my eye. So I definitely appreciate you. Hit that like button, subscribe. Chose notifications. Again, my next giveaway is at 5,500 subscribers. It'll be my 11th giveaway since starting this channel. So if you want to be included, hit that sub button. I definitely appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.